I watched a TikTok by Mike Dunhay, and he explained that God's will for mine and your life is not a career path but the posture of our hearts. Therefore, I looked into it forward. Let me know what you think. What is God's will for my life? Understanding Micah 6 verse 8. One of the most profound questions believers grapple with is, what is God's will for my life? The desire to live according to God's will is central to the Christian faith, yet the answer often seems elusive. In searching for clarity, the words of Micah 6 verse 8 offer a clear, concise, and powerful summary of what God requires of us. He hath shewed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. KJV. This verse encapsulates God's will for every believer, and understanding its depth can help us align our lives with His desires. The call to do justly means that God requires us to live in a way that reflects His justice. This goes beyond merely understanding right from wrong. It is an active pursuit of justice in our daily lives. Justice involves fairness, honesty, and integrity in our relationships with others. It demands that we treat people with respect and dignity, acknowledging their value as beings created in God's image. In a world often filled with inequality, exploitation, and corruption, doing justly can sometimes be challenging. However, as followers of Christ, we are called to stand up for what is right, to defend the oppressed, and to ensure that our actions are aligned with God's standards of righteousness. By doing so, we become instruments of God's justice in a world that desperately needs it. To love mercy. To love mercy speaks to the heart of God's will for our relationships. Mercy, or loving kindness, is a reflection of God's character. Throughout Scripture, God demonstrates His mercy toward humanity, repeatedly forgiving, restoring, and showing compassion even when we least deserve it. God's will for us is to not only practice mercy but to love it. This implies that mercy should not be an obligation or something we do begrudgingly, but rather something we embrace and cherish. Loving mercy means being quick to forgive, slow to anger, and ready to show compassion to others, even when it is difficult. It is a call to reflect the same mercy that God has extended to us. In loving mercy, we foster communities and relationships that are characterized by grace, forgiveness, and love. 3. To walk humbly with your God. The final element of God's will, as outlined in Micah 6 verse 8, is to walk humbly with thy God. This phrase emphasizes the importance of humility in our relationship with God. Walking humbly means recognizing our dependence on God, acknowledging that we are not the masters of our fate but are subject to His divine guidance and sovereignty. Humility before God requires us to set aside our pride, our self-sufficiency, and our desire for control. It calls us to trust in God's plan for our lives, even when we do not fully understand it. Walking humbly with God also means being in constant communion with Him, seeking His presence, guidance, and wisdom in all areas of life. Humility is the foundation of a life lived in obedience to God. It is through humility that we are able to submit to His will, to follow where He leads, and to rely on His strength rather than our own. As we walk humbly with God, we grow in our relationship with Him, and our lives become a testament to His grace and goodness. Application in daily life. Understanding God's will through Micah 6 verse 8 is not just an intellectual exercise. It is a practical guide for daily living. To apply these principles, consider the following steps. Examine your actions. Regularly reflect on your actions and decisions. Are they just? Do they align with God's standards of fairness and integrity? Cultivate compassion. Look for opportunities to show mercy in your interactions with others. Practice forgiveness and seek to understand and meet the needs of those around you. Pursue humility. Develop a habit of daily prayer and scripture reading to remind yourself of your dependence on God. Seek His guidance in your decisions and be open to His leading. Conclusion. God's will for your life is beautifully summed up in Micah 6 verse 8. It is a call to live justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. These 3 directives form the foundation of a life that is pleasing to God and impactful in the world. By embracing these principles, You align yourself with God's will and become a beacon of His love and justice in the world. As you seek to live out Micah 6 verse 8, you will find that God's will is not a mystery, but a clear and purposeful path laid out for you to follow.